In 1968, a woman's screams echoed through the halls of a prestigious American hospital for 72 consecutive hours. Nurses begged doctors to sedate her, but the doctors refused, not because they did not have morphine, not because she was allergic, but because her pain was the entire point of the experiment. Her name was kept secret for 35 years. The lead doctor published 14 research papers using her data, and never faced a single criminal charge. And here is what will haunt you. What they did to her was completely legal. By the end of this video, you will discover 3 things that will fundamentally change how you view modern medicine. First, a medical procedure so brutal it is now classified as torture under international law. Second, the real reason they kept her conscious and aware through 9 days of unthinkable suffering. And third, how her ordeal directly changed patient rights laws in 47 countries, including the consent form you signed at your last doctor visit. But here is what nobody tells you. The hospital where this happened is still operating today, and you might have driven past it this week. If you are ready to uncover one of medicine's darkest secrets, hit that subscribe button right now, because by minute 4 of this video, you will understand why portions of this case remain classified in certain hospital archives, even in 2025. Let us go back to where it started. But I am warning you, this gets worse before it gets better. Picture this. It is 1968. The Vietnam War rages overseas. The civil rights movement reshapes America. And in hospitals across the country, doctors operate under a principle that would be unthinkable today. They decide what is best for you, and you do not get to question it. This was the golden age of medical paternalism. The Nuremberg Code existed, yes, the one created after Nazi doctor experiments, but it had a loophole you could drive a truck through. Medical necessity. If a doctor declared something medically necessary, patient consent became a formality, not a requirement. Here is what makes this era particularly chilling. We were still in the shadow of Cold War radiation experiments. The U.S. government had been secretly testing radioactive materials on unsuspecting patients since the 1940s. Hospital ethics boards did not exist, and patient advocates were unheard of. Medical records belonged entirely to the hospital. Into this system walked a 34-year-old woman we will call Helen. Her real name remained sealed until 2003. She arrived at a major East Coast research hospital seeking treatment for a chronic condition. A librarian and mother of 2, she trusted doctors completely, like most Americans in 1968. She filled out her admission papers on a Tuesday morning. By afternoon, her file carried a red sticker. Declassified records later revealed its meaning. Approved for Protocol 7. Helen had no idea what that meant. Within hours, 3 doctors and a research coordinator reviewed her case and decided she fit their needs perfectly. What followed was not treatment. It was something far darker. Before any procedure began, the hospital ensured Helen could not refuse. It started with a single sheet of paper. She signed a consent form authorizing necessary medical procedures as determined by her physicians. Written in dense medical Latin, it was nearly impossible for any patient to understand. Informed consent barely existed. Decades later, researchers found a buried line in paragraph 7, subsection C. The patient agrees to participate in observational studies that may cause temporary discomfort. Those 2 words would define everything that happened next. Her file soon reached Dr. Olivia Wilson, a pseudonym protected under legal agreements. She oversaw Protocol 7, funded by government agencies and pharmaceutical companies studying pain response mechanisms. Her criteria were specific. Female, age 30 to 40. Average pain tolerance. Chronic illness. And the darkest requirement, limited family involvement. Helen matched all of it. By 6 p.m., she was moved to a soundproof research wing. Her family was told it was standard. It was not. At 9 p.m., Dr. Olivia Wilson used phrases like mild discomfort and standard protocol. Helen trusted her completely. Protocol 7 had one purpose: to find the point at which the human mind fractures under continuous trauma while still conscious. At 6 a.m. Wednesday, they strapped her into industrial restraints. By 6:45, baseline discomfort assessment had begun. Clinical notes described distress vocalizations. It was their term for her screaming. Protocol 7 was never about healing. It was about breaking her. A resident physician who witnessed Protocol 7 later spoke anonymously in 1995. His testimony was brutal. Helen begged them to stop for hours, and Dr. Olivia Wolson recorded every plea. She categorized her words into negotiation, emotional appeal, religious invocation, and surrender. She was cataloging human suffering. While she begged for mercy, doctors stood beside her with clipboards, marking each stage of her breakdown. Protocol 7 included a clause Dr. Olivia Wolson added personally. Pain management will be withheld to prevent data contamination. No sedation. No relief. By Wednesday evening, 14 hours in, nurses refused to enter her room. One wrote that she could hear Helen screaming through soundproofed walls and cried in the chapel afterward. A second-year resident asked Dr. Olivia Wolson to ease up. Her reply was simple. Humanitarianism does not advance science. By hour 36, Helen could no longer form sentences. Notes described her as producing non-lexical vocalizations. She was still conscious but beyond language. By Friday, hour 60, an overnight nurse attempted to give morphine. She was stopped, fired within hours, and escorted out as Helen's family sat in the waiting room, unaware their loved one had been screaming for days. At hour 72, 3 nurses finally broke. Their later testimonies revealed that when they entered the room, Helen seemed motionless, until they heard a faint fractured sound. She was still conscious, trapped in a state beyond speech. The nurses were forced to witness Protocol 7 until the end. But what broke them came on day 5, hour 96. Helen was no longer making sounds, only rapid shallow breaths. Dr. Olivia Wolson ordered a pain response test to confirm consciousness. Nurse C later said that the moment she caused Helen pain, she realized this was not research. It was torture, though that word would not be attached to Protocol 7 for decades. On day 6, Nurse A quit. Day 7, Nurse B quit. Nurse C lasted until day 8, breaking when Dr. Olivia Wolson extended the experiment by 48 hours, calling Helen post-verbal state a unique research opportunity. Their testimonies, hidden for 30 years, finally exposed the truth. Helen was no longer speaking. Doctors were measuring the sounds her body still produced. Logs from hour 120 read. Subject no longer producing vocalizations. Eyes open, not tracking. Approaching complete psychological dissociation. All while her family waited 30 feet away, told she needed rest. On day 8, her husband was finally allowed to see her, sedated not for comfort but to hide what had been done. 3 hours later, they woke her and continued. They needed 6 more days. On day 9, hour 192, her vitals destabilized. Dr. Olivia Wolson finally ended Protocol 7, not out of mercy but because she had enough data. Helen survived. They kept her alive 6 more days to study the aftermath, documenting her trauma clinically. She was discharged labeled adequately treated. Her family never learned the truth. Dr. Olivia Wolson published 14 papers using her suffering, won grants, and faced no charges. Everything had been legal. Helen medical records, the complete unredacted documentation of Protocol 7, remains sealed under court order until 2028. Her family fought to keep them sealed, arguing that releasing them would violate her privacy even in death. But medical ethicists argue those records could prevent future abuses by showing exactly how research protocols can go wrong step by step. Would you want your medical records released after your death if it could prevent someone else from experiencing what you went through? Is privacy more important than prevention? Where's the line between protecting the dead and protecting the living? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This is not a yes or no question. It is a genuine ethical dilemma with arguments on both sides. And if this video made you uncomfortable, good. Some history should make us uncomfortable. That discomfort is how we make sure it never happens again. The next time you sign a medical consent form, take a moment to actually read it. Those protections were not always there. People suffered so you could have them. Do not take them for granted. And if you found this video valuable, share it with someone who needs to understand that patient rights are not automatic. They are fought for, legislated, and defended every single day. I will see you next week with another story they tried to bury. Do not forget to turn on notifications. Some truths need to be told.